Good evening. This just in. Investigators have been looking into 3 recent mysterious deaths of employees at the Smith factory, and the cause was just found to be overexposure to a chemical called methyl bromide, more commonly known as bromomethane. After studying autopsy and toxicology reports on the bodies, investigators were able to link a connection between each of the victims' unnaturally high amounts of exposure to bromomethane, which can cause liver, kidney, lung, and neurological problems. Now we will listen to an interview with head investigator on the Smith case, Hannah Holhauser. Hello, Hannah. We are here today to talk about the Smith factory's death case, specifically regarding the traces of bromomethane that were found in each victim. For those of you who don't know, bromomethane is a chemical most commonly used as a pesticide and fumigant. This fumigant is also used in storage facilities and food commodities to control insects and rodents. Specific products include bromogas, methogas, and pterogas, and Smith Factory was a producer of bromogas. Hannah, we would like to talk to you more in depth specifically about bromomethane.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Bromomethane has a chemical structure CH3Br. This chemical is also a restricted use pesticide, meaning that it does have regulations placed on the amount of usage that is allowed. Bromomethane is commonly produced by and used in factories, and that is the primary way that this chemical is released into the environment.
Why or is bromomethane considered an issue for the environment and the United States?
Although bromomethane does not usually have any serious direct effects when released at low concentrations, when released at high concentrations, it can cause neurological and respiratory issues in both animals and humans. Furthermore, it is readily dissipated into the environment. It is released as a gas and contributes to ozone depletion. Bromomethane does not pose a significant threat to humans usually, but the release of this chemical does have serious effects on the environment.
What is the life of this toxin?
The toxin does not stay for long periods of time in an individual or animal's body under normal circumstances. The toxin usually leaves an individual's body after a few days. The recent tragedy at the Smith factory was quite an anomaly. The levels had to have been very high in the factory in order to result in such serious effects. We have reason to believe that it was during work hours at Smith factory that there was excessive exposure.
Okay, is this chemical volatile?
Yes, the chemical is quite volatile. It quickly moves from the soil and water into the air. It is most often broken down in the environment by sunlight or chemical reactions taking place in the air. Water as well as microorganisms can also contribute to the breakdown. Bromomethane, while quite toxic to humans, does not show significant damage to any wildlife and the environment other than contributing to ozone depletion. It rarely contaminates water because it enters quickly into the air, and scientists believe that fish do not even accumulate bromomethane into their systems. However, it is a contributor to the destruction of the ozone and can have serious health risks for humans.
Recently, we did a segment where we learned about some tests done to find out the effects of bromomethane exposure. From the tests done on some mice and rats, it was discovered that heart injuries occurred after prolonged exposure by inhalation of bromomethane. Another test done points towards the idea that bromomethane can change genetic material after long lengths of exposure at high levels. I'm sure viewers are more interested in learning about effects bromomethane can have on humans. Do you have any information on that?
I do. There are 3 classifications of the effects that this toxin can have on humans. There are acute effects, which include pulmonary edema, failing respiratory function, kidney damage, dizziness, fainting, and headaches. There are chronic effects, such as degenerative and proliferative lesions in the nasal cavity. And there are also developmental effects, but they are not conclusive.
Is there a certain level of exposure or concentration of the toxin which would be considered lethal?
If a person ingests the toxin at a level less than 50 milligrams per kilogram, then they are ingesting a very highly toxic chemical.
Now, are older or younger people more sensitive to this chemical?
No. However, people with existing neurological, liver, or kidney diseases are more likely to be greatly affected. Also, people who are more often exposed to the chemical are also more likely to show signs of problems from absorption of bromomethane. Often, the effects of high amounts of bromomethane are synergistic when combined with serious medical complications pre-existing in an individual or organism.
Are there any laws that have been passed by the United States government to regulate the use and release of this chemical?
Regulations of this chemical are included in general EPA regulations for restricted pesticide toxins, but there are no specific laws that have been passed to limit the usage of bromomethane specifically in the United States.
Now, what are some possible substitutes for this toxin?
Chemical substitutes can include dichloropropene, dazomat, chloropicrin, and metamsodium, or selective contact insecticides and herbicides. The non-chemical methods can include crop rotation, solar heating, plant breeding, or steam. If the factory had substituted the usage of bromomethane, we would have had 3 more workers here today.
Yeah, so sad. But, well, thank you for meeting with me today. It was a pleasure to talk to you.